Hi guys, I hope you're having a good day today. I'm back with 5 new stories for you. The first one is about a spoiled niece who OP calls Princess. Let's hear the story about Princess. Enjoy, and don't forget to like and subscribe. For the past month, my 24-year-old niece has been living with us. I'll call her Princess because that's what her parents call her most of the time. She is a medical researcher, studied medicine but wasn't interested in the practical side of things, more interested in the theoretical, and took up a position near where we live. And my sister convinced me to let her stay so she can save money. I was apprehensive because I know this girl has been coddled and babied since she was little. We have a 4-bedroom house, me and my husband, my son 16, my daughter 21, and our 4-year-old Rottweiler, Freddie. I told sister that Princess would have to sleep on the sofa in the living room, which she seemed okay with. But when she arrived, both mother and daughter set about trying to convince me to clear out the dog's room and let her sleep in it. Princess even said it would be okay to let him sleep outside because it's just a dog. It's getting a lot colder now, and I'd never let Freddie sleep outside. I told Princess that this is where she'd sleep, take it or leave it. And she was, and still is, really sulky about it. Sulking about how we think a dog is more important than her. In all honesty, I was right in thinking having Princess stay is more trouble than it's worth. She goes out clubbing and partying a lot, and makes no effort to keep the noise down when she comes home in the early hours of the morning. Since she's arrived, the living room smells of W, and that smell definitely wasn't there before she came. She's also rude to my kids. My daughter got engaged, and we were all real delighted. But Princess was lovely enough to say that if her boyfriend had gotten her a cheap ring like that, she wouldn't even get out of bed for the wedding. Daughter was in tears because of this, and both husband and I had a word with Princess, who then cried and phoned up her mother saying we were rude to her. Had another phone call with sister yesterday, and she still tried to convince me to put her daughter in the dog's room. I made it clear this wasn't happening, and sister got upset with me saying how nasty it was to value pets over family. I also said that her daughter was skating on thin ice and that I wouldn't tolerate her behavior for much longer. Sister was very offended, and she said we should be happy to have her daughter there. Sorry, but how can I be happy to have a spoiled, overgrown child who keeps trying to steal a room from a dog in my home? Edit. Just to make some things clear. Firstly, the people who have claimed I was acting snobby about Princess's job, that wasn't the case. I wasn't saying that she was more interested in the theoretical side of things so that I could say she's only a researcher. On the contrary, I specifically mentioned that she studied medicine so that people understood that she had a well-paid job in a selective intellectual field and wasn't some lab assistant or something like that. She earns enough that she could afford a place on her own if she wanted. She just wanted more money for herself. Also, the people who claimed that I was being nasty to her because I don't like her and things like that. I don't dislike her at all. I was apprehensive about having her because having known her since she was born, I've seen many of her tantrums and seen her parents give in to them over and over again, even into her adulthood. I was worried about how things would turn out since we wouldn't give in to her demands. She has tried to pick on both my children when she was a teenager, and we went through a period a few years back when my daughter refused to visit their home because Princess constantly beat her. Regarding the dog's room, there isn't any furniture in Freddie's room that a 24-year-old woman could possibly comfortably sleep on. And we weren't about to go and buy furniture since we didn't know how long she'd be staying. And for those who think I was trying my best to make her uncomfortable, not at all. We tried our best to make her feel welcome, gave her as much space as she wanted, and left the living room whenever she needed privacy. We gave her food, and while she brought more than enough clothes for home, I went clothes shopping with her and was happy to pay out of my own pocket. Within her first week here, Princess couldn't stop laughing when my daughter told her what she did for a living, hairdresser. Said that Freddie should sleep outside and shouted at my husband because he hadn't cooked dinner quick enough. So you can't blame all this on me. Regarding the W and clubbing thing, I've nothing against W use. I smoked it a few times as a teenager, as did my husband, and I'm 99% sure my kids have both done it at some point. But the fact is, it's completely illegal in this country. If she was doing it away from the house, I wouldn't care at all. I wouldn't even have too much of a problem if she was smoking it outside. But it is obvious from the strong smell that she is smoking it in the house. I'm well aware that going out clubbing and making noise is what most people do her age. However, this particular 24-year-old doesn't bother to take her high heels off when she comes in. And as we have a wooden floor, we can hear her stomping around in them, which wakes us all up. Last but not least, I didn't call her Princess on here offensively. I wasn't going to put up her real name on here, obviously. And the fact is, her parents genuinely do nickname her Princess most of the time, and she doesn't mind it when they call her it. Okay, guys. So, in my opinion, OP doesn't like Princess and the way her parents raised her up. I think that if it would be another child, not that spoiled, she would definitely give up the dog's room and even buy furniture for the room. In this case, I think OP just wanted to teach her niece and her mother a lesson by trying to put her niece on the ground and trying to show her that not everyone will be spoiling her. With the W smell and the fact that my guest is in my living room and making noise after coming in late and partying all the time, I'd have kicked them out a long time before OP. I found out I was pregnant with my daughter at 19 years old, had her at 20. When I told my parents, they said they'd be happy for me, but they didn't want to pay for anything, have us live with them, or babysit all the time. Basically, wanting to treat me the same as if I would have had kids older and not as a teenager still going to university. I was already living independently. Both my boyfriend and I worked, and we live in a country with free or cheap education and healthcare. In our culture, families are close, and grandparents are very involved in their grandchildren's lives. So I thought they'd still be emotionally supportive. During my pregnancy, I asked my parents and/or sister for help a few times, driving me to the hospital when I started contracting 3 months early, picking me up for a family event when I wasn't allowed to drive, helping me prepare meals to put in the freezer, and staying with them for a weekend when I was due any day and my boyfriend couldn't be home. They refused, telling me that I was expecting to be catered to. They also didn't want to come with me to the ultrasounds, or basically hear me talking about anything baby-related, telling me that I was trying to win them over and have them forget that I was making dumb decisions. When I spoke to other relatives, my sister joked that I was trying to get gifts from them. I had severe postpartum depression and thought I was an entitled jerk and a failure, unworthy of the baby or anybody's support, but improved a lot after months of therapy. My relationship with my parents started improving after they apologized for not getting me to the hospital. They told me they were afraid I was going to destroy my life and thought that they were showing tough love. Improvement in our case meant that we're on speaking terms and they're allowed in my granddaughter's life. We're not close. Which brings us to today, 3 years later. My sister, 29 years old, is pregnant, and she's getting a completely different treatment than I did when I was treated as an independent adult. Our parents stay with her when her husband isn't home, don't let her do any housework, paid for her birthing class and a maternity photo shoot, and get her whatever she craves to eat. Yesterday, my mother called and asked me to bring over to her house all of my daughter's old furniture, toys, and anything else of her baby stuff I have kept because she wants to set up a nursery so my sister's baby will have everything they need when she babysits. Apparently, my sister wanted my parents to buy some new stuff to keep at their house, but my mother told her mine will do. I answered that mine will not do. My sister should try to get freebies from other relatives instead, and ended the call. I've been getting texts from my parents and sister telling me to come to my senses and calling me petty, immature, and resentful, among other things. So, Reddit, am I the idiot here? I think that OP is definitely not the idiot, but I think OP should consider telling her parents her feelings on this matter. I personally wouldn't hold it in. Also, OP should add, you reap what you sow. It sounds to me like favoritism, and their tough love is such an excuse. I'm an 18-year-old guy with a lot of experience when it comes to handling kids. I've babysat my baby brother multiple times when I was 14 and 15, and even some of my cousins aged around 3 through 8. Where I live, it's not illegal to do, so don't worry. I do this when I'm free on the weekend. My town's pretty small, and the people there are very busy sometimes. Combine that with the fact that there aren't many babysitters, and well, news spread, via my mom who wanted me to do this, that I'm a good option. I voluntarily do my services for cheap. I'll use the currency dollars to put it into perspective for most of you. Approximately $2 to $3 an hour, sometimes even for free. The parents, or carers, are always so surprised and amazed when they arrive back to see everything in perfect condition, and even more so when I tell them the price. They often offer more, but I reject because I just enjoy working with kids. This one family took advantage of this though. I live alone with a few roommates, so this family I previously served multiple times called me and felt that they owed me a special Thanksgiving dinner because it was the least that they could do. I don't celebrate Thanksgiving, but I didn't want to be rude to their kind offer and decided that I would go. I drove there and we were having a good time eating and talking. My parents called to check on me, so I excused myself to leave the room and go on a quick call with them and left. They must have seen this as an opportunity of some sort because the next thing you know, they left quickly and left a note on the table saying, "Sorry, we'll be right back and pay you in full," and left me with a 4-year-old boy and 3-year-old girl. It was late and I had plans to enjoy my Thanksgiving holiday and they ruined it. I obviously wasn't happy, so I tried calling them 3 times, but they didn't pick up. I dialed the non-emergency police number, and when the officer showed up, I told him everything. The parents turned up, and the officer demanded their side of the story. They told him that they had to attend an emergency community meeting. They were lucky they didn't get fined, but the officer gave them a strong reprimanding and left. They were confused and ticked off at me. I said, "You should have let me know, and you practically left your kids with me without my consent. That's illegal." And then I told them, "Don't expect me to babysit your kids here on out." They've tried to call me numerous times that they need me and they apologize, but I wasn't having any of it. I told my parents and they thought I was being a little too harsh. Edit. Just to make things clear, I don't celebrate Thanksgiving, but you can still celebrate the holiday with your own plans instead of without actually celebrating the event. I know some non-Christian friends who decided to go on a vacation to France during the Christmas holidays. That doesn't necessarily mean that they celebrate Christmas. It's just taking a break from all the stuff you usually do and having fun, if I'm making sense. I don't think OP is an idiot. The parents sound like rotten people who just wanted to take advantage of OP. I'm sure they thought if they will ask OP to babysit during Thanksgiving, he will say no. So they decided to trick him by inviting him to Thanksgiving dinner and then just running away. That is so shameless. Also, I think OP should start charging more for his services. So I'm 21 female. I'm fully financially independent from my parents. I'm living in another country, the UK, and studying and working there. One of the first things I did when I left was signing up for violin lessons. My parents always refused to sign me up for music lessons because they said I wouldn't keep up with it, like all kids. Whatever, independence. I do what I want. So I bought a cheap violin and went on with my life. 3 years later, I'm still really into it and starting to eye my university's strings orchestra. I thought a lot about upgrading my violin, but I'm always kind of put off by the price, figuring I'm not good enough yet. Until I came to some discovery session organized by my university strings orchestra, and one of the girls let me try her 3,000-pound violin. I definitely saw the difference in tone. I spoke to her a lot, and she pretty much told me I can't audition to anything with my cheap violin. Fine, decision taken. It took me 3 months, but I found one I loved and bought a 2,000-pound violin. Of course, I told my parents about it and got laughed at and pretty much insulted. They told me that was the most stupid thing they had ever heard of, that you should never invest that much into something that won't make you money. They asked where I got the money, and I explained that for the past 3 years, I'd put £1 aside for every 30 minutes of practice I did. They laughed more and started listing better things I could have bought for $2,000. Said that I better not ask them for money. I never did, ever. And if I do, they'd force me to sell it before giving me anything. They kept pushing and asking me if I could return it, get a refund, or resell it before it loses too much value. I hung up on them and put my phone on silent. I took some time to calm down and then told them they could either apologize and start being civil about the things I'm serious about, Or they could go and mock me among themselves, but that I wouldn't stand here and take it. They are infuriated at that, and so far I mostly got more mocking, telling me I'm ungrateful, etc. My other relatives say it's a very petty thing to stop talking to your parents over, and that I'm the one who should apologize, and that they were just joking innocently. Am I the idiot? Of course OP is not the idiot. How rude of them. They were certainly not joking innocently. It should be hard not to get emotional support from parents. I think this is a great way to draw the line. I love my mother-in-law. She can be kind of annoying and difficult, more in a socially awkward way, but I chose to let it go. Sister-in-law, my husband's brother's wife, is a bit more neurotic and controlling than me, and they clash. I find sister-in-law very uptight and try to avoid her, which doesn't really work because she can't stand when someone doesn't like her. Anyway, they got married recently, and mother-in-law wore lilac, not white, freaking lilac. But sister-in-law was upset because she thought it was too light. Mother-in-law and I were invited to get ready with the bridal party, and I heard sister-in-law complaining about the dress being too light for the mother of the groom. I told her that if it was white, I would be on her side, but mother-in-law looked fine. Well, sister-in-law accidentally spilled coffee all over the skirt. I don't believe her for a moment that it was accidental. She even smirked when she apologized. Leading up to the wedding, she had made comments about her mother-in-law should dress more like her mom, who was probably 10 or 15 years older than mother-in-law and at least 100 pounds heavier. I don't think mother-in-law has to look frumpy just because she has adult sons. Sister-in-law had a spare dress, probably because the coffee was premeditated, and she seemed to be proud of herself for trying to force mother-in-law into a frumpy and very cheap-looking dress. Sister-in-law doesn't know this, but my mom was a seamstress, and I worked for her all through high school. We had enough time before the wedding for me to run to a store and get supplies, so I took mother-in-law in the bathroom, cut the damaged part of the dress, and fixed it. Sister-in-law was furious when we came out, so mother-in-law ended up wearing the too light color, but now it was even shorter and probably too sexy for the mother of the groom in sister-in-law's opinion. I didn't think anything of it, and we had a great night. Sister-in-law confronted me recently and said that was a B thing to do. It put a damper on her night, and I should have supported her because she was the bride, and lilac is some grievous sin.